Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the SEC Championship Game Preview Show. So happy to have you along. We've opened up with Rashad Johnson and John Parker Wilson. We'll have Cecil Hurt here in just a moment from the Tuscaloosa News, and Coach Nick Saban, head coach of the Crimson Tide. We've got a ton to talk about. Of course, the big matchup between Bama and Florida coming up on Saturday with a 4 o'clock a 4 o'clock broadcast time and a 7 o'clock tip-off right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Cecil Hurt, good to see you, my friend. How are you? As Coach Saban joined us as well. How are you, Cecil?
Doing great. How are you?
Got to time it perfectly, you see, to get you a nice ovation as you are introduced. You do it when the coach walks in the door at the same time. See, it's all in the timing, Coach. To get Cecil a little extra airtime. Yeah.
I think it was all for Cedric.
Is that what it was? Well, he certainly is deserving of that as well. It's great to see you. How's everything going?
Doing well, thanks. Appreciate it. Appreciate you asking. I'm a little late tonight, and I apologize for that.
That's quite all right. No need to apologize. It's great to have you with us. And here now comes the aforementioned Cedric, and he and Cecil here are getting all masked up right now. Apparently, headsets are a little loud here. I'll just adjust. How about that? Is that doing anything for you, Coach?
Yeah, it's better. Thanks.
All right, you got it. So let's talk about this matchup. You got obviously a very outstanding Alabama team against a very, very outstanding Florida Gator team. That's what do you expect at this time of the year?
Well, I don't think we're going to play anybody the rest of the year that doesn't have the opportunity or doesn't have the players to take advantage of whatever mistakes that you make. And I think offensively, this is probably a team that's very similar to that our fans could relate to LSU last year in terms of, they got a very, very good quarterback. They've got really, really good skilled players outside. They got really good running backs. They got a lot of mismatch type players, and then their offense is, sort of takes advantage of those mismatches by where they put those guys in formations, and you sometimes get, the wrong guy, the wrong guy on the wrong guy, and it's a problem. So it's going to be a challenge for us defensively. Certainly going to be a challenge for us on offense. They're very athletic on defense. Todd Grantham does a really good job as a coordinator, creates a lot of pressure, a lot of negative plays, and that's the style that they play. So fundamental execution becomes very important when you play a team like this.
You know what concerns me, and I think I bring this up every time we play a team with this certain type of guy, that 6'6", 246-pound tight end. In their case, it's Kyle Pitts. He's a load. He's a handful.
Well, he's one of the mismatch guys that I talked about, and he didn't play last week, and I think that was one of the things that when he plays, they're a different team because they have a lot of other good wide receivers, but when he's in there and he's playing tight end, he's a difficult matchup. I mean, he's so big, you need a linebacker type guy to cover him, but who's athletic and who can run at linebacker like he can. And then if you put a defensive back on him, he mismatches you size-wise. So when he plays, they really create lots of problems, and we certainly anticipate that he will play in our game. And he is an outstanding player and really, really good receiver.
With that said, why don't we bring in the next member of our crew on the show here. Cecil Hurt is with us. Hello, Cecil. Welcome in as always.
Hi, Eli. How are you today?
Hanging right in there. Thank you.
Good. Just wanted to ask Coach Saban, there's so much talk about Kyle Pitts at tight end, but Kyle Trask is really the guy that makes them go at quarterback. How is he in any way comparable to some of the quarterbacks you face, maybe the Ole Miss quarterback, Matt Corral? Is he that mobile, and how has he been able to close to 400 yards a game?
Yeah, well, I think their scheme on offense is geared toward exactly what Kyle Trask can do very well. He's a very accurate passer. I think he reads coverages and knows where he's going to go with the ball and gets it to the right guys. And, he really does a great job of executing their offense, and they throw it a lot, but they also are capable of running it. So you got to be able to stay sound against the run. But it's the mismatched players and the way they utilize those guys in the formations that really makes it difficult to defend. And then he does a great job of executing. He's very accurate with the ball. He's not like a running type quarterback. I mean, he can extend plays and keep his eyes downfield, and he will hold the ball if you don't force him to throw it on time. But this guy is probably as good a passer as anybody in the country. And their scheme certainly is geared toward what he does best. And their mismatched players are also guys that can really make some explosive plays on offense, which they've done pretty consistently throughout the year.
Joining us on the phone tonight, Coach, as per usual, and he is our very first caller of the night. Pee Wee is with us from Grand Bay, Alabama. He's got the first call, brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig to know what's below. Call 811 or visit al811.com. Pee Wee, welcome in. You're on with the coach.
Coach, how you doing, buddy?
You're going well, Pee Wee. How are you?
I'm doing good, sir. I'd like to take just a quick moment. My family wanted to send thoughts about the flowers that were sent down from my dad. They were all very appreciative and just wanted me to convey our family's thanks to the Alabama football family for that.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. We're, really pleased to be in a position that we could offer some condolence for your family, and I hope everybody's doing well after your loss.
Yes, sir. Y'all have touched on it a little bit. This defensive line that we're going to face Saturday night, probably going to be one of the best, if not the best, that we have faced all year, and the offensive line play is going to go a long way in deciding who wins this game. Number one, I was just wondering if you had a little bit of an update on Evan Neal. Has he progressed enough this week to where he would play? And just wondering, is their style of play that Todd sets up, is there anything different or a different type of deal that they would do that we haven't seen this year?
Well, first of all, they are very athletic on defense in the front seven. They've got really good speed. They got a couple guys that are really good rushers. Cox, number one, is a really good rusher. They do have some big guys inside. This is going to be a challenge for us. I think the biggest thing that they do is they've got a lot of pressures, different kinds of pressures where they'll play zone, overload the side, also play some split safety stuff with some overload zones. So they create some problems for you on third down that we have not seen this year. But, our coaches on offense do a pretty good job of, getting the guys organized protection-wise where you have a chance to protect the quarterback and don't have to throw the ball hot all the time. But this is a very, challenging defense. But I think you got to have balance against them. I think we got to control the line of scrimmage well enough to be able to run the ball effectively, and that makes our play-action pass game really work well. And the RPOs, sort of complement that. And then we got to do a really good job on third down because you have to keep the ball away from these guys. I think controlling the ball on offense is really a key to playing a team like this who is arguably maybe the most dynamic offensive team in the country. Certainly passing the ball they are, but overall they will rack up a lot of plays on you if you let them keep the ball the whole game.
Coach, you mentioned Brenton Cox, number one. The other number one on the Gators is Kadarius Toney, a guy from right here in the state of Alabama. What makes him so good?
He is a great slot receiver, very quick, great change of direction. Runs a lot of option routes, runs a lot of jerk routes, goes one way, comes back out the other way.
Right.
Very quick, very competitive, really good run after catch guy. And they utilize him perfectly in their offense, and he certainly delivers for them. He's got over 60 catches, I believe.
Let's go back to Cecil Hurt from the Tuscaloosa News.
Coach, particularly after the Tennessee game, when Devontae stepped in to take over the punt return duties, there was a lot of, you got some media questions about whether that was, should you do that, should you not do that, what do you do with guys? And I was curious if anybody mentioned that to you after Saturday's punt return.
No, I haven't. I don't really listen too much to what you all say. I do respect you, Cecil. You're one of my favorites. You know that. I think you have great professionalism, and I've always appreciated that for all the years that I've been here. But I didn't even know you all were complaining about Smitty being the punt returner. But now that I hear that, look, I don't think you can really coach football or think about coaching football if you're worried about guys getting hurt. You know, injuries are part of every sport, and any player can get injured doing anything. All right, so you could criticize us for Waddle being on kickoff return, and if he wasn't on kickoff return, maybe he wouldn't have got hurt. But better yet, if he'd have just done it the way he was supposed to do it, he wouldn't even have brought that particular ball out. So you can put yourself at risk when you don't make good decisions about what you do. As a middle return, you bounce it out. So, you know, we can't really coach and say, all right, I'm not going to let this guy do this or that because he's really a valuable player on our offense, especially if he's the best player and the most dynamic guy to be able to do something to make explosive plays to help your team win. And you're not just coaching your team for the games that you played last week and the week before, but you're playing the games for the people you're going to play now, the people that you got to beat to win the championship. So who should be the punt returner then? So I guess it's easy to sort of sit there and say, why not let somebody else do it? But I think it also is good for the player. You know, it benefits Smitty in his future that he now has in his repertoire of very, very talented things that he's accomplished here as a receiver. He now adds value to his future because he's a good returner. So it's not fair to the player not to let him do things that he's capable of doing that can help him and help the team. So just hard to coach football worrying about if I let a guy do this, he's going to get hurt.
Has that changed over the years? This attraction to, oh, should he have been in or not? Was that always a factor going way back or what?
It probably wasn't a factor until we had 24-hour news cycles and people had to figure out what to talk about. Mm-hmm. So they talked about the coaches so there was always two opinions as to whether you should do something or shouldn't do something. So
there's their opinion and your opinion, and yours is always correct. So
well, mine's not always correct. It's just the only one that counts.
Gotcha. We're visiting with a man whose opinion is the one that always counts, Nick Saban. We're going to come right back with more. Coach Nick Saban is alongside. I'm Eli Gold. Glad you've gotten our show tuned in this evening. And I'll tell you something, Coach. There's every game at Alabama is a big game, but there's just something special when you've got the championship game. It's how much is there a tendency to over prepare, to change things too much, or does it take somebody like yourself to have to know exactly how much you can tinker with things and how much you got to leave them alone?
Well, I don't think you really over-prepare just because it's a big game. I mean, it's a great opportunity for our players to be able to play in the SEC championship game. It's one of the best competitive venues that I've ever been involved in or had the opportunity to play in. And I think it's something that the players have to really earn the right to do. And what they've been able to do so far this season has been, pretty exceptional. But it's all about how you finish. There's only, with one exception, only one team here that didn't take a loss somewhere along the line to get it right. And I don't know if that's the only team we've ever had that can do it or whether this team can do it or not. Now, there's been a lot of uncertainty this season. It's been a tough year. There's been a lot of disruptions. But you get to this point, and you got to be able to focus on the finish line. You got to be able to, how many times have you heard your coach say, finish through the line, run through the line, the track guy, you got to finish through the line. And I know a lot of players are tired, right now. It's been a long season, but you got to focus on the finish line. You got to outrun the other team. You got to outsprint the other team. You got to finish the play, finish the down, finish the series, finish the quarter, finish the game, one play at a time. And if you can do that, then you have a chance to be successful because you're going to play all really good teams from here on out. So, that's going to be the key to the drill. And it's the legacy of the team. The whole legacy of this season, this team, lies in how they finish. Mm-hmm. What do you do from this point on? It's unbelievable to win 10 SEC games. I don't think anybody's ever done that before in a season. Never had the opportunity maybe to do it, but this team took advantage of the opportunity to do it. So now they have an opportunity to win the SEC championship, which is going to determine what the legacy of this team is and how they're remembered. So you got to sprint through the finish line.
And I know I'm preaching to the choir when I talk to you about this, but wouldn't it be something to be able to see this happen year after year? And I'm not trying to set you up to go off about any policy, but boy, oh boy, I tell you, this has really been a spectacular year, regardless of how things end up.
Well, it has, but it's all going to be about how we finish.
Yeah.
We're going to play a lot of good teams from here on out. If we get the opportunity, we've had the opportunity to play in the SEC championship. If we can be successful, we'll determine our own destiny and not leave it up to somebody in a boardroom someplace to decide whether we get in the playoffs or not. So, and we win the SEC, which is a significant accomplishment to me, for this team and for our team. And for more than anyone, I want it for the players. I'd love to see this team. This team has been great. We haven't had issues and problems. They've stayed focused. Last week at Arkansas, they could have looked ahead to this game and really not went out there and played, but they took care of business in some very tough circumstances. The field was in bad shape. It's cold. And they went out and played fairly well. Now, one thing that we did point out is the fundamental techniques and how that impacts your chance to have success on a particular play. And we won't play any more teams that won't take advantage of those things if we don't do them correctly. So I think fundamental execution, creating good habits and preparation, those things are all really, really important to being able to have continued success. I'm sure Florida's going to look, to get well on, a disappointing loss last year, and maybe they were looking a little bit ahead to the SEC championship game. It was difficult, but our players, I have to give them credit. They stayed focused and went out there and did what they needed to do to have success up there at Arkansas.
How much does a player's personality and demeanor mean when you recruit? How much do you look at of X's and O's and, hey, he can throw, he can run? And how much do you really dig into what his background is like?
Well, there's three things that we sort of evaluate probably equally in my mind. Mm-hmm. Maybe some people don't think of it this way, but I think character and attitude and intelligence are really important factors in somebody being able to develop. Now, there's physical skills that you have to play every position, and we sort of define the critical factors that we're looking for at every position. And then we define the size and speed that we would like to have at every position, which is going to give them the opportunity to have the best success relative to who they have to compete against. Mm-hmm. So, but if you don't take that first part, if you don't get character, quality people in the program, they don't develop, and they can impact other people in a negative way so that it affects their chances to develop. And, one of the biggest things that I always try to emphasize to our players is you have to be responsible for your own self-determination. In other words, you have to be responsible for what you do, your actions, your habits, the things that you do. And I make every player on our team come in and say, these are my goals, personally, academically, and athletically. And then when they're not doing the things that they need to do to accomplish those goals, I have some very simple conversations with them. Like, how is this behavior helping you accomplish any of these goals? So you kind of put it back in their court, and they can kind of see that, well, when you have character quality people who want to be successful, they respect the critical eye because they have goals and aspirations, and they want people to help them to get there. And those are the people who develop, and those are the people who have success. People who come in with high expectations and entitlement and think they should just get to play because they were a five-star player in high school or whatever. Those are not the right kind of players to develop.
Sure.
And most players that come to college need to develop. Some develop more quickly, but the ones that develop most quickly are the ones that have character and really, really good attitude, and they're smart, and they can learn, and they understand the importance of development.
Cecil, why don't you jump on in, because we've all seen so many of the different type of players over the years, haven't we?
We have, and I was going to follow up since you had raised signing day, which was this week. And we had talked earlier about different circumstances this year. But just in general terms, two-part question. First, did you feel like this class matched the needs that you have? And second, in your career, is this the first time you've ever recruited a Kool-Aid?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Kool-Aid is a really good player, though, and really like him as a person. He's a good basketball player, too. Really good athlete, and their team won the state championship, and I know he contributed to that in a very positive way. So we're glad to have him be a part of the program. And we certainly, every year, we have needs, and you can't really define exactly what those needs are going to be even now, because your roster can change a lot more now than it used to. More guys go out for the draft. You have a situation this year where seniors could actually come back for next year. We don't know how many guys will want to do that. I've tried to avoid those conversations until after this game. So there's just so many things that can happen. Guys, I mean, they're talking about passing a rule that they may have already passed where guys can transfer and not have to sit out. So there's going to be other roster moves that you have to make. But I think it's going to be very difficult to have 85 guys on scholarship if we continue to have this sort of liberal way that people can move around. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that's the way it's going to be. So, and I think for some of the really good programs where you have a lot of good players, you may be losing more guys than other people. And then how do you manage your roster to 85, because you're always limited to bringing 25 guys in a year? Me personally, I think that if a guy's a graduate transfer, that means he was in our program for 3 or 4 years. We did our job with him. We helped him develop. He graduated from school. Those guys can transfer and go someplace else where they have a better chance to play. Then we ought to get that back. I think when a guy goes out early for the draft, well, I think we should get an initial back for those guys. So if you have 3 guys go out for the draft and 2 graduate transfers, you ought to be able to bring 30 guys in instead of 25, as long as you're under 85. So if we're doing our part in terms of developing and guys leave the program for a positive reason, going out for the draft is a business decision that's positive for most kids. And graduating from school is positive for everyone. And it means that they're going to have a better chance to be successful in the future, and the legacy of their family will have more chances to be successful in the future. So I just think when we change some things, we need to change other things.
Good analyst would point that out. How much, I guess it's a tribute, obviously, to yourself. Oftentimes, you're the guy that these experts ask those type of questions of. A lot of guys, it's strictly dollars and cents, or it's strictly X's and O's. You seem to oftentimes be dropped into your lap these questions that they would ask the big-time NFL coaches, and that's a category into which you fall from your days gone by. It's a tribute, but you got to think. You got to think when you answer.
Well, I think most of the opinions that I have comes from talking to people who are very well versed on a lot of these things relative to the impact that it has on various teams, the NCAA, some fairness and equality, and how people can compete against each other. So, and I've just been fortunate to be around a lot of really, really bright people who are in positions to influence my opinion, I guess. in a way that's very positive. And I think there's a lot of good people out there that are trying to make this the right thing in college football. But, you know, one of the things that I also think this year has kind of proven out more than anything else is we should have a commissioner for college football, at least for the Power 5 conferences, because all these conferences made different rules for how we could play the season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, not that I have an opinion about whether they should or shouldn't get into playoffs, because I'm not going to go down that road, but you're going to have teams that played 6 games and other teams that played 11 or 12 games, and you're going to have to make a decision as to which one of these teams have an opportunity to be in the playoff. And I don't care how you make the decision, it's not going to be totally fair to someone. But if you had somebody who got everybody together and said, okay, this is how we're going to do this, so it's going to be the same for everybody, it would probably be a little fair, a little more equitable for everybody involved.
Why don't we go back to the phones now and head to Hartselle, Alabama. Joe is next on the program. Hello, Joe. Welcome in.
Hey, Eli. Just great news that you're doing okay.
Thank you,
with
sir.
this virus deal, and of course, Coach Saban also. But hey, Coach, since your opinion is number one, where does Miss Terry fit on that list?
Well, she's way up there. You know, it's our anniversary tomorrow.
Oh, happy anniversary.
December 18th, 49 years.
Wow.
And it always seems that it's right in the middle of football season. And, you know.
But that's good. That means you're still playing ball.
We can't, I know it's good that we're playing ball, but it's not good for your anniversary because we can never really celebrate it very well. But, you know, we've had great years together, and she's been a great partner and really supportive and helped me in so many ways to get better in terms of so many things that I can't tell you how much I appreciate it and appreciate her and what we've been able to accomplish together.
Amen with that. Joe, thanks for calling in, sir. We appreciate it. Cecil Hurt, why don't you jump right back in, sir?
I was going to ask about the defensive line.
Yeah.
That really seems to have come a long way from the first game. Some of the younger players and some of the guys who've been around, like Phil Mathis, who've also had a good year.
Yeah, we've made some progress in the defensive line. I think some of the young players have really stepped up and improved. And you know, we had 3 or 4 freshmen that played last year, and those guys really have progressed nicely, you know, throughout the season. We've missed LeBrian Ray, who was sort of the veteran guy who's really struggled with his elbow injury. It's not an easy position to play when you can't really use your hands and strike out on people. But we've had several guys really step up. But I think the entire defense has really kind of gelled and played better together. Everybody doing their job and finally understanding that if I do my job and everybody does their job, we have a really good chance of being successful. Mm-hmm. And I think that concept took a while because there was so many guys, having 3 or 4 freshmen that were playing a significant role. They were just trying to figure out what they were supposed to do. And they couldn't even figure out how that fit into the big picture of what everybody else was supposed to do. And I think as we sort of got knowledge and experience and learned and grew and gained some confidence in what was expected and how it fit, I think we all started playing better together as a team, and I think it really helped our confidence. But I don't think we've been challenged all year long like we'll be challenged in this game, just because of the style of play that Florida has, and we're going to have to play really, really well. And I hope Christian Harris, who has practiced for a couple days, I don't know, I think he can play. I just don't know how effective he might be. That's going to be probably a game-time decision. But having those kind of athletic guys like him and Dylan Moses and the guys we have in the secondary are really important when a team spreads you out like this. You got to have those kind of players on the field.
You got Harris, a semifinalist for the Butkus Award. You've got Patrick Surtain, now a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Award. This is normal stuff for Alabama as the season comes. guys improve, and next thing you know, they're on the nationwide lists for all these national honors. It's wonderful. How about guys like Malachi and Jordan and Brian Branch? How have you seen them improve?
Well, I think those are the guys that I'm sort of talking about when I say the young players on the team. Will Anderson, Malachi, Brian Branch, those guys are all just freshmen. And they were freshmen that didn't have spring practice, they didn't have summer, they didn't have a lot of things. So they were a little bit behind the eight ball, even more than a normal freshman. Those guys have really developed an understanding of what's required of them to do their job, how they need to do it, and how it fits into the big scheme of things. So that's really helped us get better as a team. And so has, Smitty up front.
Yeah.
He's really come along. He's helped. You need to be able to roll the big guys, especially in a game like this where there's going to be a lot of passing. You got to keep fresh bodies in there to have depth with athletic pass rushers is really important in a game like this.
Why don't we go to the phones? Emily is joining us from Birmingham. Emily, welcome to the SEC Championship Game Preview Show.
Hello. Hi, Coach. My question is, with the restrictions on travel with COVID-19, how that affected your ability to recruit, and if you think there's anything positive that came out of that you might stick with in the future.
Yeah, Miss Emily, that's a good question. We're not allowed to travel and recruit off campus, and we haven't been allowed to do that since like March 15th. And it's really been sort of challenging for us to figure out ways, how can we recruit without going out to see people, and those people also can't come and see us. So we've really used this whole virtual world of, I've had to have at least 100 Zoom family meetings from my house through this whole recruiting process, which is just like doing a home visit, except I'm in my house and they're in their house and we're on a video screen and everybody knows how to Zoom now. That's the way of the world. So, but we virtually did every part of what we do in recruiting. We had a virtual tour of the academic center. We had a virtual tour of the weight room with the strength and conditioning coaches, the nutrition center with the nutritionist, the medical staff. So we took everything that we would do on an official visit or an unofficial visit, and we said, okay, we're taking it to them. Some kind of way we're going to take it to them. And that's what we did. So, and a lot of those things were effective, and we're actually doing it now with practice.
Really?
Every Wednesday, we have a virtual tour of practice that we send to guys that we're recruiting.
Interesting.
So they get a chance to see what practice is like. So we're doing as much as we can virtually to try to develop relationships that you used to be able to do personally by having people visit here and us to visit them, and now we're doing it all virtually.
Who comes up with that idea? You're sitting around somewhere and they said, hey, what if we let the kid out in Santa Monica see what's going on the practice field? Who comes up with that?
Well, I think we all contribute to it.
Right.
But I kind of try to look at things like, okay, here's the circumstance that we're in. Here's the issues that we have. How can we implement a way to do these same things some other kind of way?
Sure.
And that's been something that we got a lot of bright guys on our staff, and we all put our heads together and figured out how to do it. And then we got a lot of quality people who implement it in a very positive way as well.
And you then finish, you recruit the best people in America, and the successes continue on.
Runs left side, foot race, again, Bama will win it. McClellan, 15, 10, 5, touchdown Alabama, exclamation point as Alabama.
Up, exclamation point, Chase McClellan, 23 carries, 245 yards and a couple of touchdowns. He's had a good season. Roydell Williams has played well along with the regulars, if you will. It's got to really feel good when you know what went into, we talked recruiting, and now here these young men come in, they get a chance to do a little bit or maybe more than a little bit, and they succeed. That's wonderful to see.
There's always a little bit of a downside. You know, we had a couple other players, including Paul Tyson,
Right.
who we were going to put in the next play. There was like a minute 30 or 2 minutes to go in the game, and we wanted to get all these other players a chance to go in the game on offense, and we go out the gate for 80 yards
Yeah.
so they didn't get a chance to play. I wanted to tackle Jace myself so that the other guys could get in the game.
Cecil, jump on in again, would you?
Coach, when you play Georgia these days, Tennessee, Ole Miss, it's a storyline, probably a worn-out storyline about you playing your former assistants. But when you see Butch Jones, Coach Jones, at his introductory press conference, and he got very emotional talking about you and Miss Terry and the opportunity that he had been given to get back into head coaching. How does that make you feel personally?
Well, I love it when our guys get opportunities. I know that they all work hard here for us so that we can have success. But deep down inside, they're working because they have goals and aspirations and things that they want to accomplish and want to do. And, you know, Butch Jones is as classy a guy and as good a coach and as well organized as, you know, anybody we've ever had around here. And I'm just so happy for him and his family that he's going to get an opportunity. Sometimes, you know, people put some negative things out there about you, and, you know, how good or bad they really are is unproven. But in this case with Butch, man, I can't tell you enough good things about how he's contributed to our program, how he's helped me organizationally. The players really like him. And I thought that when we played Tennessee up there the first year he was here, and the players actually poured Gatorade on Butch, you know, when we won the game, kind of shows you, you know, how much respect and admiration our players on our team had for him and the contribution he made. So I'm really excited for him and happy for him. And he's done a great job for us, and it's always great to see those guys go on and get the opportunities that they're working for.
Just to follow up, of the many NCAA rule changes, how is that the analysts, the additional assistants or not on the field assistants, but the assistants that you can have work with the team, how has that rule change affected the game, and do you consider it a positive?
Oh, I think it's a positive that we have people in the program that can help, and especially in a year like this. We had coaches down for several games, not just 4 full-time coaches for the LSU game, and if we didn't have a significant number of experienced coaches who could step up and kind of take their place, it would have had a much more impactful outcome for us to try to manage through some of these issues that we had this year. But more than that is, people think that we have all these guys working because it's really going to help us win games. They all contribute in a very positive way. Could we do it with less? Probably. But the thing that I think we all have a responsibility and obligation to, that nobody seems to want to take responsibility for, is who develops coaches? How do we develop coaches? If coaches are really important, and I think coaches are really important to a lot of young people. A lot of people that play may not come from great family homes, have tough socioeconomic backgrounds. I mean, their coach is one of the people that has the most significant impact on the direction of their life and whether they get an education and whether they make good choices and decisions. And they're willing to do it because we help them do something that they love to do, which is whether it's play football, basketball, whatever it is. So it's really important that somebody takes responsibility for developing coaches, giving people opportunities so that they can learn and grow so they can get the next job and maybe someday be a head coach. And, you know, when we talk about minority opportunities, I think this is a responsibility and obligation we all have too. You know, to have significant numbers of those types of minority folks in coaching positions where they're learning and growing so that they can take the next step and they will get better jobs and make contributions and learn and grow. And, you know, that's where maybe more head coaches, athletic directors, and people like that come from. But, if we put restrictions on how many of those people we can have and what we can do, it's insignificant in terms of cost because they don't make that much money. They're making tremendous sacrifices to be able to do something they love to do. So I think it's a very positive thing that we're able to do that. And I think that people complain about it, think you're creating some great advantage for your program by doing it, but really you're doing something that's professionally important for the development of coaches in our game.
That's Coach Nick Saban. And Coach, now it's time for your final word, presented this week, as every week, by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
Well, I think that finishing is what I talked about earlier. Anybody out there that can do anything to help this team finish. This has been one of my most difficult weeks in terms of workload and how I can contribute and improve our opportunities to be successful. And it's not so much about who we're playing as how much respect I have for the team that we have, the sacrifices that they've made throughout the year, all that they've gone through. And I really would love to see this team have the opportunity to finish the right way and win the SEC championship. So anything that anybody out there that can do that supports the program, that can help stimulate thoughts, prayers, cheers, whatever it is, I would certainly appreciate it because I love this team and I love to see this team be able to finish the right way.
We're all in this together.
That's right.
We really are. Coach, thank you for your time as always. Travel safely down the road. We'll see you in Atlanta.
Well, I appreciate that, Eli, but you know what? This I may not get a chance to speak to everybody who supported the program out there, and we wish everybody a happy holiday. That's for sure, and I hope everybody stays safe, and God bless you all over the holidays.
Amen to that. Coach, thank you so much. Coach Nick Saban joining us here on our SEC Championship Game preview show.